Hello again, and today's the day for the question and answer session that I've been teasing you with over the past couple of days. Thank you to everybody who asked questions on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook, because I've got quite a collection and I think it's going to be a bit of a laugh answering some of these questions. There's quite a lot and I'm going to try and get through them without waffling too much. So here we go. First of all, welcome if this is your first visit to my YouTube channel. Welcome back if you've been here before. And my name is Marion and I'm the crochet hands and crochet head behind the name Wool Thread Paint. I design crochet blankets which are full of colour but very easy to make, so they're great for beginners, and I've got lots of tutorials and videos that go alongside the patterns. That's enough of an introduction because we're going to go straight into the questions. Some of them are crochet related, others are completely off the wall. Here we go. First one, and I'm going to be looking down at my iPad every time to look at the questions, so I'll be up and down. What's your favourite portable holiday project? I'm assuming that person means by portable small project to take with you on holiday. Wrong person to ask, I'm afraid, because I don't take any specific crochet projects when I go on holiday. Simple answer is because I have a husband who can't sit still for longer than 10 minutes unless he's got a glass of wine in front of him. So we don't tend to sit about on holiday. We go for walks, we go rambling, we do a lot of city breaks, so we are doing sightseeing in cities and art galleries and things. So there's no point in me taking any specific crochet. If we're going on holiday in this country, which is Scotland, we're usually going to a cottage, an Airbnb, and driving, so I can just pack the crochet blanket that I happen to be working on at the time. Tea or coffee? Well, in the afternoon it's tea. Black coffee, very, very strong black coffee, first thing in the morning to waken me up, and coffee at certain times and tea at certain times. I like both. Wine and chocolate, yes or no? Yes, for both. Rosé wine is my go-to choice. I like the wines of the south of France, and a nice rosé at the end of the day is very welcome, as is chocolate, unfortunately, and I don't keep any in the house because my husband does not have a sweet tooth, so it would be me who eats it all. So although I love chocolate, I don't eat it very often. Next question. Where did you go on your most favourite holiday ever? I had to ask my husband for help on this one because I couldn't think. He said the Grand Canyon, but I was kind of underwhelmed by the Grand Canyon. So I think it would be a combination of Copenhagen, which is a city I've only visited once, but I fell in love with it, or Vienna, which we visited in the winter, in the snow, with the Christmas markets, and it was magical, or Antibes, which is our favourite holiday destination in the south of France, and we've been there many, many times, and I know it like the back of my hand. And yeah, those would be the three that I would choose. What inspires your colour choices? If anything inspires me, it would be nature, and I think you'll see that in some of my blankets where it's been the woods and the beach. We happen to live near a beautiful beach, so the colours of the beach, the colours of the woods, the colours of the hills in Highland Scotland, those kind of things. You can't beat Mother Nature for the most inspiring colour schemes. Do you ever get tired of crocheting? Maybe people round about me get tired of seeing me crocheting, but I don't get tired of crocheting. I will crochet morning, noon and night, and I do because I consider it my job. And no, I don't get tired, and thankfully my hands don't get tired either yet. did you learn to crochet? It was to fill a gap. 9 years ago, I was preparing to retire. We ran a business, and well, my husband and myself had both decided that we were heading towards retirement. We'd brought our daughter into the business and we were preparing her to take over, and I knew that I would have time on my hands and I wanted to have a hobby, and I thought if I started to crochet it would give me something to do when I retired. Who taught you to crochet? Two answers to that one. First answer is aged 14, I think, young teenager. My mother had an attempt at teaching me to crochet, and I don't even remember her doing it, but I do remember that I was kind of coerced into making a granny square, which I didn't enjoy, and then to go on and make a waistcoat. This was the late 1960s, and waistcoats were all the fashion. And I had to crochet this waistcoat in the colours of dark brown and beige, and I hated it, and I never wore it, and I never did any more crochet. And to be honest, I can't remember the teaching at all, and it meant nothing to me. When I started to crochet 9 years ago, none of it came back to me. I didn't even know how to hold a crochet hook. So who taught me? It was me. I just got some books, quite a lot of crochet books. I'll put a picture up of them. I didn't use YouTube at the time, so I wasn't looking at video tutorials. It was just books, and to be honest, the books that I found most useful were the ones that just gave me stitches, how to do stitches or squares. The ones that the beautiful crochet books that are all about a designer's colour choices and patterns and things weren't so useful to me, because I felt I could do that. It was just learning the basics of crochet, so I taught myself. What was your first project? If I can find a photo of it, I'll put it up. It was the most awful doll's, a blanket for a doll's cot that I made for my granddaughter, and I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to crochet in a straight line or crochet neat sides. They were, what was supposed to be a rectangle became a shape like that. I'm sure some of you will relate to that, and I really didn't know what I was doing, and it's actually falling to pieces, but my granddaughter's kept it. But that was my very first crochet project, but funnily enough, I went straight from that to a full-sized blanket from my granddaughter's bed, and it was fine. I learned so much by my mistakes in that first one that I really just took off from there. I'll put them both, pictures of them both up. Where is the craziest place you've crocheted? I don't think I crocheted anywhere really crazy. I would say the most unusual maybe is a bus, and it was my husband and I heading over to Edinburgh on the bus. It takes nearly 2 hours by bus, and I had a whole pile of mini grannies to make for a pattern I was doing, so I thought I'll just use the time on the bus, and I had quite a good workstation worked out on the bus, including my husband. He was roped in. I had a plastic bag which I hung over a hook on the back of the seat in front, and I had my ball of wool in my bag, I think. My husband was holding my scissors and I was crocheting, so I would crochet a mini granny and hold it up, and he would cut the yarn and I would put it in the bag, crochet another mini granny, hold it up. I think I must have got through all the, I don't know, was it about 100? I made a lot of mini grannies in that bus journey, so that's about the craziest place. What pets do you have, and if one is a cat, how much yarn does she get to play with? I don't have any pets at the moment. I've been a cat person all my life, and my last old cat died when he was about 22 or 23, so a good old age, 4 or 5 years ago. and we decided not to get another one, so nobody plays with my yarn. Do you enjoy other arts or crafts? Well, I'm assuming that the question means, do I do any other arts and crafts? But yes, I enjoy art in general because that's my background, and my husband is an artist. And anytime we go on holiday or wherever we go, we'll check out the local art galleries. We've seen some incredible exhibitions in New York and Vienna and Paris and wherever, and we just will always be looking at art galleries and exhibitions wherever we go. But as far as doing other arts and crafts are concerned, yes, my first love is embroidery, mainly canvas work and pushing the boundaries of canvas work, and I've been doing that for much longer than I've crocheted. There's a piece behind me, and I'm going to do another vlog with a lot more of my embroidery in it coming up soon. I did silkscreen printing, I like photography, I like textile design. I did printed textile design at art college, and a little bit of painting, but not too much. I'll leave that to other people. It's the fabric and texture, art, patchwork and quilting, knitting, yeah. But at the moment it's mainly crochet and embroidery. Favourite thing to crochet, ? And that is a blanket, and always a blanket. And why? Because I see a blanket like an artist's blank canvas, if that makes sense. It's a way of creating a pattern, whether it repeats or not. I like my patterns get quite complicated. Simple stitches, complicated patterns, and mixing colours. So it's like an artist's canvas, and always a blanket. I'm not interested in anything small and fiddly. No, thank you. Oh, this is a great question. This is the one that I've been waiting for. In what unusual places have you been inspired by colour? Now that is the perfect question for me, because I have been inspired in an unusual place, and it's almost embarrassing to say, but it was sitting on the toilet. I can't believe I'm saying this, but a few years ago I was in the loo and in my bathroom and sitting on the toilet, as you do, and I happened to just look at the shelves, the other side of the bathroom shelves, and there was, you know, all my bottles and things that are there, and there was a collection of bottles, totally random, not placed, just the way they came. I think it was like shower gel, shampoo, conditioner, that kind of thing, and the colours in the bottles, cheap bottles, nothing fancy, just worked. And I remember I sat maybe longer than I should have on that toilet, just looking at these colours, and I came away straight upstairs to the studio and looked out some yarns in the colours of those bottles. I think it was kind of pale aqua, pale kind of apricot, maybe a pinky colour. I can't remember exactly now because it was a while ago, but I did assemble a basket of those colours, and thought I would make a blanket design based on them. Didn't ever happen. I think the basket of colours sat for a long time and then they were used up for other things. But I suppose I could have called it the bathroom shelf blanket if I had made one. This is not crochet related, it's Scotland related. We are in the USA and looking to travel, perhaps stay in Scotland. I'm assuming you mean permanently. What do you think are the best places to visit and or move to? Well, Scotland is stunning. Everybody knows it's stunning, and it's right at the top of the list of places people seem to want to come to from abroad. I just see that all over social media. So I would say if you were thinking to come to visit, then come to Edinburgh or Glasgow, although Edinburgh seems to have the edge on visitors coming in from abroad. They'll come and stay a few days in Edinburgh and then maybe head off to the obvious places, which are Glencoe, Isle of Skye, Harry Potter, the Viaduct. I don't really get that, to be honest, because these are the places, oh, and to see a Highland cow. And these are the places that everybody goes to, so they are absolutely jam-packed with tourists. Certainly come to Edinburgh. There is so much history, so many beautiful buildings and old cobbled streets. It's a fantastic, gorgeous city, but it can get packed at this, bursting at the seams with people. But if you're prepared for that, then that's okay. Come to Edinburgh for a few days and then certainly tour about Scotland. Bear in mind that the West Coast, if you're in Scotland in the summertime, anywhere up the west, the islands, the coastline, the glens of the west will be full of midges, and midges are the biting insects which make people's lives a misery. And just be aware of that. And the east of Scotland, where we live, has no midges because the west is warmer and wetter, which is what the midge likes, and they stay on the west. So the east of Scotland has no midges, has beautiful beaches and lots of lovely walks. And you could certainly, a lot of people miss out the east of Scotland when they come to Scotland, but it's worth a visit. Moving to permanently, I would say, is difficult, and I don't know the ins and outs of it, but I do know that I have a friend whose daughter is Scottish and married to an American boy who they are living in Scotland now permanently, but it took a long time and a lot of money to get the visas needed to stay in Scotland. I don't know if they're finished yet with their all the planning and applications. So it's not easy. It costs a lot of money. I think if you've got a particular career that is needed in Scotland, then it'll be easier. I don't know how easy it would be to retire to Scotland. And if you were coming to stay permanently, I think people have the romantic idea of the Highlands, but it's not necessarily a practical solution, because if you live up north, you have a long way to travel to things like supermarkets and doctor surgeries and dentists and that kind of thing. So it kind of can spoil the dream. But there are lots of places in the lowlands of Scotland that are just as beautiful. Right. Who's your favourite musician? I think my favourite would be Paul Simon. He's been the kind of, what was it my daughter called it? The soundtrack to my life, because I introduced her to Joni Mitchell when she was travelling around the world a few years ago. And she said it was the soundtrack to her life going around the world. She just loved Joni Mitchell. And Joni Mitchell was a favourite of mine when I was younger. But I think Paul Simon has stayed with me all my life. And I've seen him twice. And the first concert that I saw was about 20 years ago, and it was in Edinburgh Castle, believe it or not. And it was a smallish concert, and we were very close to the stage, and it was just out of this world. So yeah, Paul Simon and all his music, whether it's the early Simon and Garfunkel from the early 60s upwards to Graceland and the newer stuff, I just love it all. Which out of all the blankets you have ever made is your most favourite, and why? That's an easy one. It's the beach walk blanket, and it's everybody else's favourite as well. It was the one that I made in the first lockdown of the pandemic, and it was based on our daily walks, which we took every day on the beach. It was such a strange time. It's all tied up in the blanket, and it means an awful lot to me. And the whole blanket just started and finished itself. the colours, the stitches, the pattern, everything just worked, and it will always be my favourite blanket, and probably everybody else's as well. How do you settle on a good colour palette for a design? That is trial and error, intuition. The colour's the most important part of the design for me. So I'll happily spend 2 or 3 days longer even selecting my colours, and I'll start with maybe about 50. I've got an idea in my head of maybe the colours that I want to use, and I'll pull, that's why I've got such a big stash of colours. It's like paint. The balls of yarn are my paint, and so I just collect them all, and I'll maybe put about, I don't know, 40 or 50 different colours on the I've got a big work table, lay them all out, or not even neatly, just pile them all up, and then I'll pull colours out and put them back, add more colours. I just keep going until I whittle it down. I'll start with probably a basket that's got nearly twice as many colours as I need for the blanket, and again I'll whittle it down as I'm working, and I might add other colours in, and my blankets, as you know, have a lot of colours in them, but that's just the way it is. And yeah, most important part of the blanket for me. What do you do with all these blankets? Good question. I'll put a photo of my blanket stack. It's down the other end of the room there, and it's growing again, but up until about 2 years ago it had got really big. It was, tottering, the pile of blankets, and I thought I need to do something about that because they weren't being used or seen. I have 2 or 3 that I tend to rotate around the sofas and bed in my house, and the others were just folded up on the shelf. So I thought I would sell them and have a charity sale. At that time, 2 years ago, there was some big disaster in the world, these horrible things that happen now and again, something, I can't remember which one it was, but I decided to have a charity sale and put all the proceeds to the Disasters and Emergencies Committee that was raising money for that disaster. And I sold I think I sold all of the ones that I advertised, 20 of them, and they all went to very good homes, and I know they're loved by the people who bought them. And I was very, very happy to sell them and to pass the money. I felt as if they had done a good job by providing the money for the charity. But I do regret it occasionally now, especially when somebody emails me and says they need help with a particular pattern. It's much easier if it's one of the ones I have on the shelf and I can pull it out and look at it and see what it is that they're stuck on, but not so easy if I don't have the blanket to hand. So I kind of regret not having them all, but then I would need a room for them all. What's your secret favourite pattern of yours designs? Well, apart from the beach walk, I would say my secret favourite pattern is the frosted pearl blanket, and that's because of the colours, because I just am drawn to the mother of pearl, the very, very soft mother of pearl colours, and that's the blanket that I put on my bed rather than any of the others. So yeah, the frosted pearl, and I don't think it's everybody's favourite by any means. It's one of the ones that have the lowest sales in my Etsy shop. So it just shows you, just because I like it doesn't mean to say everybody else does. What inspired you to start crocheting? Well, I'm going to say this is from 9 years ago, and what inspired me, I've already mentioned that I was going to be looking to something that was going to fill my time as a hobby when I retired, but it also coincided with my mother being ill in her last few months of her life, and she was needing a lot of help and care, and I spent my afternoons with Mum, and I managed to do it. Although I was working in the business full time, I did mornings in the business and evenings. I worked late into the night, and kept my afternoon. If you're self-employed, it makes it easier. So I kept my afternoons free for Mum. And then she passed away in the October 9 years ago. And I thought I would start to crochet in her memory. And I also thought that it would be quite good to keep that afternoon time away from the business. It's so easy to absorb it into the business and just keep working. But I thought, no, I had managed to run the business without that those 3 hours and so in the afternoon. So I thought I'll keep that time to myself to do something. And this is when I had been thinking about the crochet. And Mum had been a fantastic crocheter, knitter, needlewoman all her life. She was my inspiration. So I thought, well, I can embroider and I can knit. I will learn to crochet. So that's what inspired me. This is a very strange question, and it's really not for me. What's the best dog breed for grand twins? Well, the person who's asked me obviously knows that I've got twin grandbabies. But the best dog breed, I am not the person to ask. I'm not a dog person. I've never owned a dog. And neither has anybody in my family, funnily enough. And even, to be honest, we live in a block of 3 cottages in the country. So there are 2 other neighbours and nobody has a dog. So I'm not the person to ask. No idea. Best dog breed, no idea. But I don't particularly like dogs and babies together. So, yeah. Next question. Who is your favourite crochet designer? Well, I don't want to mention any of my friends don't want to pick out one of my friends. I've got people that I know well in the crochet world, virtually, but people like Anita from Made by Anita. I do love her work. She's got a fantastic artistic eye for patterns. And Jane from Janie Crow Designs, yeah, again, an absolute expert. And Lucy from Attic 24. Everybody knows these people. Their work is, excellent. But I'm going to say Sophie Dar. And maybe a lot of you will know who Sophie Dar is, but some won't. And she's a French designer, a crochet designer, who doesn't create patterns. She creates finished items, and they are absolute works of art for usually scarves, I think, is her main thing. And she creates the most incredible designs and using colours that just are so beautiful together and patterns that are amazing. They're not the kind of thing that I wouldn't be inspired to do work like her, because it's quite different from me, but I just love looking at her work. She doesn't crochet them herself, or at least she doesn't crochet everything herself. She's got a whole team of people who work for her, but they are out of this world. How old were you when you got married? Well, I'm going to show my age by saying, because everybody in my era, everybody got married quite young. And so I was 22, 2 days off my 23rd birthday when I got married. And that was quite, well, not old, but certainly a lot of my friends were married by then. Yeah, that's what you did in those days, 1976. What was your first job? I was 14 and I was a schoolgirl, and my dad had a neighbour who owned, he managed a few of the traditional ladies' dress shops in the centre of Dundee, which is where we lived. And Dad, being the canny Scot that he was, had a word with his neighbour and said, how about finding a job for Marion for her Saturdays? I didn't know anything about it. It was just sprung on me once it was agreed that I could work. And I thought, well, actually, I thought that was quite a good idea. It got me into the centre of Dundee on a Saturday, which meant I could go shopping in my lunch hour and that kind of thing. And yeah, I worked there Saturdays and school holidays until I went to college. And then I worked in hotels and factories all the years, all the summers. Everybody worked in somewhere over the summer when I was at college. And then I went into teaching and finally set up my own business. So that's been my career, working career. What's your process for coming up with your designs, and how do you know that everything will fit correctly as you crochet the pattern up? Well, I don't. Process, it's not a process. I wouldn't say, I don't particularly like the word process when it comes to something artistic, and I still think of my crochet as being artistic. So it's intuitive, it's trial and error. I don't do any drawings, I don't do any plans, I don't make any charts or anything like that before I start. I just start. I've just collected my yarn and I start. I'll have lots of ideas going on in my head, but it's only when I actually start crocheting that these ideas come out. And so there's lots of trial and error, there's lots of frogging, and I can honestly say that half a blanket can be taken out and put in again before I'm happy with it. And I don't know that everything will fit correctly. It's a little bit of maths and a little bit of luck and trial and error. I understand you're not wanting to pattern write with your embroidery, because I have said I'm not likely to be doing patterns, but I would love to see quality prints available on Etsy. Any thoughts on that possibility? No, I hadn't thought of that one. I'm assuming you mean that I take, of my finished embroideries, I take good photographs and then have them printed up as art prints or something. No, I hadn't thought of that. I don't think I would do that. I think the closest, and I have considered it now and again, is to do some good photographs, have them reproduced as art cards or greeting cards, that kind of thing. And I might do that once I've got enough different designs made up, because the greeting card industry was my business when I was had my business. So you know, I might do something like that. This lady, I'll just show you what her question looks like. It looks like an essay. I'll try and cut it down, but this lady took a lot of time to ask her question, and basically it's a little bit of what I was talking about a couple of questions ago. She says, it recently took me forever, countless times, frogging, adding rounds or removing entire rows, and a lot of frustration to try and figure out. She was adapting a pattern, I think, and doing it her own, and it was to determine how many squares that would fit along the edge of a project. And that's, you know my blankets, it's quite often bands of squares going round. And she says, please tell me the formula to figure it out easily. Well, maybe there is a formula. I've never found it. I don't use a formula. I do counting, lots and lots of counting, and you just have to count along, and if it's not going to fit, then you add some extra rows of something else to get the number of spaces that you need to make it fit. But yeah, lots of counting, and there's no formula at all. Sorry, after that lovely long question. This is the craziest question for me. You know what I think about dogs, I've already said. So this person has said, I have 2 Jack Russells. Would you ever consider writing a dog jumper pattern? No. Sorry. I don't think I would ever consider writing a human jumper pattern, so I'm not going to do a dog jumper pattern. I'm sure there are lots anyway. on the internet, but I'll stick with my blankets, thank you. Can you show me how you hold your yarn, as it's so different to me? And you look so relaxed, whereas my finger is stuck up in the air and I get a tram line on my finger. I'll do a little video and stick it in, but I hold my hook. Oh, holding the holding of the crochet hook has got so much conversation around it. There is no right or wrong way to hold a crochet hook. Say that right now. Some people hold it like a pencil and some people hold it like a knife, and I'm the knife holder. Just the way I held it when I started crocheting, and I think if you've done a lot of crocheting, it's pretty well impossible to change your style, so don't try it. If you hold it like that, and I think that's maybe, I may be wrong, but I think that's maybe the more traditional way of holding it, then that's the way you'll always hold it. The one thing I would say is holding my yarn, I hold it like I knitted, and I'll show you what I do, but it helps to keep the tension right, and it pulls the yarn through at the right tension. And also I've discovered that holding with the knife style keeps a more even tension, I think. I'm going to maybe get some pelters for that, but I think if you hold your yarn like this, you're more likely to pull the loops a bit longer, and therefore your tension might be a bit looser. That's not to say that that looser tension is wrong. I don't mean that. It's just different from my tension. And my tension is quite firm. So yeah, I'll show you. I'll do a little video and I'll put it in. Have you considered turning some of your crochet patterns into a book? Well, yeah, I kind of had a fleeting idea a few years back about doing something like that, but I decided against it. And the reason was because I write my crochet patterns in a very chatty way, so that it's almost as if I'm sitting next to you. That's the way I want to do it, because personally, following a pattern, if it's like a knitting pattern where it's purely abbreviations and numbers, I can get lost in it, and so I don't want beginners to get lost in my pattern. So I'll be talking to you as I'm writing the pattern, and that would make for a very long book if I was to put a few patterns in. Also, I would think that there might be the tendency for the publisher to ask me to do some smaller projects in amongst, and that's not me. I don't do small projects, so I've kind of gone off that. I don't think I'll ever do a crochet book. But talking about books, I have been asked very often for some kind of patterns or charts for my embroidery that I'm doing as a, the embroidery that's following on from the crochet blankets. And that might be a way of doing it if I was to do it as a book, because I believe, I might be wrong, but I believe there are lots and lots of crochet books out there and lots of embroidery books out there. But I don't think there's a book that takes crochet and transfers it into embroidery. So I think that might be a niche that I could fill, and it would also give me the chance to explain how I do it, because it's not cross stitch, it's not tapestry, it's not even the most obvious canvas work. It's my own style, and I do things like colour the canvas and add other bits and pieces in. But if I was doing it as a book, I could explain all that. It's just finding the time, and I don't know if I would have the time to do it, but you never know, could be a project. Back to Scotland, I'll try and be quick with this. Having just completed the NC 500 in 3 glorious weeks and loved every minute, what's your favourite place in Scotland? Well, the NC 500, I'm sure a lot of you don't know what that is. It's a fairly recent route that's been, it's not created because it was always there, but it's been publicised as a tourist route around the north of Scotland, and it takes in fabulous scenery from the north. So I'm glad this person loved it, because it's a very what would you say, contentious subject. Some of the locals are not very happy because there's a lot of people use the route now. It's very, very busy, and it's a very twisty turny in places route with a lot of single track roads. We did it many years ago before it was called the NC 500, and it was empty. It was lovely, and I don't think I would do it again because it's just so full of traffic now. But yeah, so I'm so happy that this lady Julie enjoyed herself. My favourite place in Scotland, various places, Blair Athol in Highland Perthshire, which is only about an hour and a half's drive for us. And we go up there a lot because we love walking in the hills, and the colours are stunning, and there's a lot of trees, which is a little bit different from further north where it's more barren. But in the autumn, the trees, you have the fabulous colours of autumn. So I love Blair Athol. The island of Arran on the west coast is my spiritual home, because I grew up, well, I was born in Prestwick on the west coast and spent the first part of my childhood there, and I could see Arran from my bedroom window, and my dad worked on Arran as part of his job, and it would be going over quite a lot. So we used to go over with him for day trips, and we had holidays in Arran, and we had our honeymoon on Arran. So Arran, the island of Arran, is my other favourite place. Food again. Do you enjoy eating haggis? This lady says, I get some every day when in Scotland, but it's not available in the US, and she's got a sad face. I think if you were to ask any Scottish person, they would say, yeah, they quite enjoy eating haggis, but only once a year on Burns Night, the 25th of January, when we have our Burns suppers. We eat haggis then with neeps and mashed potatoes. Neeps is mashed turnip. And we drink a toast with some whiskey, and there's various things to do with Robert Burns. And we don't tend to eat haggis any other time of the year. I know it's for sale in the shops, but I don't think there are too many Scots will eat haggis on a regular basis. I think it's only visitors to Scotland who feel they have to eat haggis. And it's great. I mean, there's nothing wrong with haggis. I like it, but I wouldn't have it every week. And yeah, so I do enjoy eating haggis once a year. And this year I ate my haggis with the rest of my family. There was about 9 of us, and we were in the middle of a storm which had taken out the power. We had no electricity, but you just boil a haggis. You don't need to do anything fancy to it. So I had thankfully a gas cooker, so I was able to cook the haggis and neeps and mashed potato on my gas cooker by candlelight, which is how Robert Burns would have eaten it, I think. What was the reason that you began crocheting and designing? Well, I've explained that. I explained that I started crocheting as a hobby, but I have I say all my life, but since 1988, I've run a business from home, and it became a pretty successful business. And I've given my entire life to a business, running a business from home. So when I started my hobby of crochet, I think within a few weeks of being retired from the business, it became another business. And so it's not a hobby anymore, it's a business. What's your favourite colour and favourite flower? Favourite colour is grey. If it's to do with my work, whether it's embroidery or crochet, it's grey. But then there are 50 shades of grey, aren't there? And grey is the most wonderful colour, because it's not a colour, it's every colour, and it's a tint of every colour, because black is every colour mixed together. That's how you get black. You mix everything together and you get black. So if you add white to that, you get a tint, and that's grey. So you can get warm greys, cool greys, bluey greys, greeny greys, pinky greys, purpley greys, just depending on the proportion of the colours. And therefore I love grey, and I think it works so well with everything else. Every other colour seems to go with it. So that's my favourite colour, although I don't have, well, I do wear grey, but I like bright colours to wear, and I like quite bright colours in my house. So my daughter's house at the moment, she's got a grey kitchen, and I wouldn't have a grey kitchen. I would have a colourful kitchen, as I do. But for working, grey is my favourite colour. And my favourite flower, I would say, is tulips for a cut flower in the house. I love my tulips in the kitchen. And in the garden, I've got an absolutely glorious, well, it's called Gloire de Dijon, an old rambling rose that goes round our living room window. And at the moment, it's absolutely full of the most beautiful flowers, and the perfume is gorgeous. So the old rambling rose is my favourite. What is this with me and food? What is your go-to meal for breakfast? Easy, because I don't think about it. It's the same every day. It's a bowl of bran flakes with whatever fruit I happen to have in the house on top of it. So it could be strawberries or raspberries, because we live on a fruit farm. Strawberries or raspberries or blueberries, banana, kiwi fruit, dried prunes, something on top of the bran flakes, and a mug which is bigger than this one, full of the strongest black coffee that you could get, and that keeps me going. My favourite dessert is, well, I like a lot of desserts, but we don't tend to eat desserts. I'm married to somebody who's not got a sweet tooth, so we don't eat desserts much, but apple crumble, a good apple crumble, and I can make a good apple crumble. A good apple crumble with some cream or ice cream. Can't beat it. This is a yarn one, and I think I might be doing a bit more about yarn in my next vlog, but for the moment, somebody's saying that they want to get away from working with acrylic yarns. And she says, I wondered if you might give alternative colours in cotton or cotton blend yarns. In making your seed packet blanket 3 times now, wow, I really like the Pebble Haze yarn and other cotton blends and don't want to go back to all acrylic. Well, I can't give you alternative colours in pure cotton because I don't work with pure cotton. I've got a basket of cotton, balls of cotton yarn that I bought way back when I first started crocheting, and I wasn't aware of what the yarns were like and did, and I very rarely use them. I will use them to make things like bunting or Christmas baubles or something, but I don't like cotton to work with because it's got no elasticity and it hurts my hands. So I don't work with cotton. The cotton blends, like the Pebble Haze, this is a mixture of cotton and acrylic, and because it's what's called a blown yarn, it's like a tube and the fibres are blown into this tube. It's got a nice elasticity and very soft, and it's kind on the hands, and it's beautiful yarn. I absolutely adore the Pebble Haze. And it is a blend of cotton and acrylic, and I think the acrylic helps the hardness of the cotton. I don't work with wool because I wouldn't say allergic, but it hurts. It's not good on my hands. I don't like it. I don't wear woolen jumpers next to my skin. I find they very kind of itchy and scratchy. I always have a t-shirt underneath if I'm wearing pure wool. So I don't work with wool, and therefore I haven't taken the time to study these yarns and to know what alternative colours or brands that I can offer instead of the acrylics. So I am unashamedly an acrylic fan for blankets because it's very hard wearing, it's easy to wash, it comes in a lot of different colours, and it's economical, and that's really important. When I'm designing a pattern, I'm always aware of the purse strings of everybody who's buying the pattern, and not everybody can stretch to the cost of wool, which is a lot more expensive, and cotton as well, more expensive than acrylic. So what I would say is if you want to make one of my patterns in cotton yarn, go ahead, but you will need to research the colours and the brands yourself, and that's not difficult to do. I mean, Wool Warehouse will have all the colours of cotton yarn in their ranges, and I know that some of my followers, particularly in the likes of Australia, have asked me about cotton, using cotton in blankets, because it's, you know, a cooler yarn than acrylic for a hot country. But they're quite happy to find their own cotton yarns to match in colours with my acrylic ones. The next question is a follow on. It says, I'm just wondering what's your favourite wool to use? And, well, wool yarn, I would say, not wool, if you want to be pedantic. Yeah, my favourite yarn to use is Pebble Haze, and it's for the colour, the feel, the slightly watercolour effect, because it's given me a yarn that has replaced the old Stylecraft batik yarn, which used to be my favourite, and it was a mixture of acrylic and wool, the batik yarn. I loved it. I've done a lot of patterns using the batik yarn, and then of course Stylecraft started to delete colours from the range, and it became impossible to keep using it, unfortunately. And then Yarnsmiths brought out the Pebble Haze, and that's been a fantastic alternative. The colours are gorgeous, and they have, let me see if I can bring it up. Yeah, they've got the big Pebble Haze prints, which come in variegated colours, and I've used that, of course, for the summer season and the Sweet Shop blanket. So yeah, Pebble Haze is my favourite yarn. And then of course the Yarnsmiths Create and the Stylecraft Special, the acrylic yarns, are the ones that I love to use. What's at the top of your bucket list? I don't think I've got a bucket list. I think I'm too old for a bucket list. Or maybe I'm too happy and content for a bucket list. That's what it will be. I don't think there's anything left that I really particularly want to do. Is that sad? I don't know. I'm happy where I live. I'm happy with having my family around about me, and I'm happy with what I do. So I don't know. I don't think I've got a bucket list, I'm afraid. I'd love to hear what your bucket list is, though. Anybody who wants to comment on any of the questions. If you've seen a question you really think, oh, I've got an opinion, I could answer that one, go ahead, please put it on the comments after the video, and let's have a whole conversation start up with different ideas. So what's on your bucket list? And this is a very odd one. I think this is the last one, actually. What is the strangest thing you believed when you were a child? This person went on to explain that what she believed, well, her brother told her that, I haven't got the rest of the question, but I think her brother told her that you got kittens from pussy willows, and if you put pussy willows, you know, from the willow tree, in water, they would turn into kittens, and then she got very disappointed when that didn't happen. I think the strangest thing I believed, and I don't know why I believed it, because nobody told me or suggested it, but it was when I was really young, and I used to have to go to the doctor for the odd thing like a vaccination or sore throat or something. And way back in the 1950s, I remember the doctor's surgery had a big container that was full of boiling water. I think it was glass because I think you could see the bubbles. But this container of boiling water was how he sterilised his instruments. And for some reason, I have no idea why, I got it into my head that when you went to the doctors, you were put in this, this big tub of boiling water as a means of treatment. And so consequently, I wasn't very happy about going to the doctors. And, you know, it's one of these things that stay in your mind for years and years and years. And of course, they don't use boiling water to sterilise instruments anymore. But yeah, that was my strangest thing that I believed. And by that, I think we've come to the end of all these questions. And thank you so much for staying as long as you have with this. It's been great fun to answer these questions, and there's been some crackers. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please do so, because I'm hoping to have a lot more vlogs coming up, a lot more frequent than they were last year. And like and subscribe, as everybody says, and that keeps the channel going. So I'll be back. I've got kind of a question and answer session again, but a more serious one coming up, because these are the ones where I've drawn together some questions from people who have been stuck on patterns or asking particular questions about yarn or that kind of thing. And I've got one very serious question that I'm going to answer. I'm not going to say what it is, but it's something that's very important and very serious, not very nice, but I think everybody needs to know about. So that'll be in my next vlog. So I'll see you then. Bye.